July 16th, 2024, already at the middle of the month. Well, of course, the big event, of course, was the attempted assassination of former President Trump at a rally in Pennsylvania, and of course, it was amazing when watching the thing live and how long it took the people in the news to face up to the reality of what they'd seen. I mean, it was just amazing how they were debating for about an hour or so with anybody, what was actually happened, and it was just amazing. But fortunately, he survived in very good shape. It was a grazing wound on his ear, apparently, and the shooter, this Thomas Crooks, was neutralized by Secret Service counter snipers, I guess they call them, and so we won't have to go to a trial. Of course, we'll probably never understand exactly what his story is. As the information comes out about the would-be assassin, it seems as if he seemed to have been considered, at least in high school, to be a conservative, and he was a registered Republican. Although apparently sometime around January, the inauguration day of Biden, he actually gave money to a progressive PAC or something, $15. So he seems to be a bit of an ambiguous person. Maybe he's an extreme never-Trumper. There is a certain element of the conservative movement that falls into this, what I call this extreme never-Trumper. They're almost irrational about the subject, as the Democrats are. Or it's possible, like we've seen in the past, Hinckley shot Reagan in order to impress Jodie Foster, for example. So you do have those kind of situations where the motivation is completely irrational and not even political in any sense. So we probably will never know. I guess the FBI has access to his phone and laptop or whatever. So, there was some attempt to sanitize his social media, apparently. I don't know who did that, but I presume the FBI can probably go to the company in question and still retrieve it, I guess. There's various Wayback things. Stuff on the internet tends to stay out there, especially if you don't want it. So anyhow, that's kind of the situation on that. There's a lot of questions have been raised about the whole subject, of course, and I want to kind of get into a little of that issue. But if you like these videos, again, please give me a like, because it helps with the algorithm. And you can subscribe, of course. I've certainly encouraged more people to on YouTube, or you can also, based on instructions in the description below, you can subscribe on Rumble as well. So you can find me either place. This incident definitely gives a black eye to the Secret Service, because, I mean, when you look at the facts of what happened, it's like this shouldn't have occurred. And it's a real paradox. Apparently, as we learn more about it, the outer perimeter had been delegated to the local police, I guess, or maybe state police, and they had apparently been observing this individual for about a half an hour before the event, before the shooting, and somehow he'd eluded them. Apparently, as near as we can tell, and that things are still a bit fragmentary. It looks like that he somehow had brought a ladder in there to climb up on this building, and apparently at one point right before the incident happened, the police officers apparently were trying to access the roof. I don't know why didn't they use the ladder, but apparently didn't know where it was, or, well, we don't know. That's what's unclear. But one version, at least I heard recently, was that one police officer got up on the shoulders of another one and was reaching up, trying to climb up on the roof when he was looking down the barrel of the rifle or something, and basically ducked back down in order to immediately be shot. I mean, it's not like people are trying to present like he was a coward, but the fact of the matter, he didn't have his hands on his pistol. He had his hands apparently pulling himself up, and the result, he tumbled to the ground, I guess, along with the other officer. And so anyhow, apparently that was considered an unsuccessful idea, and I don't know. But somehow this was not successfully communicated to the Secret Service to act. And what's also unclear is I mean, when you look at the layout of the grounds, and you have to ask who are the Secret Service snipers supposedly looking for. I mean, presumably the interior security is looking for anybody that's going to try to get in close to the podium. You know, so they would presumably be looking at people more on the exterior, like anybody on a roof with a rifle, for instance. And given the fact that they have weapons with really good quality telescopic sights, I mean, they could see quite clearly what's on the roof of a nearby building. And admittedly, the crooks apparently was wearing kind of an urban camo type clothing, but still, it seems unclear why they couldn't pick that out, particularly if he had a black rifle. That's really strange. And so, and also there's videos that have taken shows that before the shooting, while Trump is still speaking, it looks like that they were actually in position and taking aim through their scopes right in the direction of that building. Um, so uh, so the one question is well, were they waiting for an order, permission to shoot? And is that the hidden thing that the Secret Service has been hiding as of this recording? I mean, for instance, in the Afghanistan withdrawal case where the 13 American servicemen people were killed and many others were seriously injured by a suicide bomber, the sniper in that case was waiting for permission to shoot and it wasn't given. Is that what happened here? That the special agent in charge didn't give permission to engage? And of course, I presume that once the crooks opened fire, then it would just be a matter of the self-defense. They wouldn't need special authorization at that point to return fire. Um, and they were able to lock him up and get him very quickly after that. So if they didn't know where he was at all, how could they shoot him that quickly? You see what I'm saying? So it looks like they did have him in the crosshairs, so to speak, before the guy shot, and apparently waited until he actually opened fire before they reacted. Now I may end up having to recant this in a future video. I mean, but just based on what I know at present, that seems to be the only logical conclusion. I'm just following the logic of it. I mean, clearly Trump speaking, they are clearly aiming in that what appears to be that direction. Police on the ground are trying to get to the roof but failed, and then but they don't respond until the actual Trump is actually nicked with the bullet on the ear, and of course tragically 3 other people were hit, 1 fatally. So it looks to me like that this is the real hidden thing that still hasn't been brought forward yet. The other question is, even if they were denied permission to engage, shouldn't they have taken Trump off the stage immediately before anything happened? If you see what I'm saying. In other words, if they're looking at it and they're saying, this looks like this guy has a rifle, he's dangerous, he looks like he's going to do something, do we have permission to fire? And the special agent charge says, no, not yet. But wouldn't the next thing to say is, well, then get the candidate off the stage to safety? But that didn't happen either until, of course, the shooting occurred. I mean, the shooting was essentially over with by the time anybody actually rushed the stage, and at that point they did what they're supposed to. They covered them with their bodies and then got them out. And I don't think that particular response when they knew to respond. But the question is why people. It seemed like either that or there was a complete communication breakdown between the police and the various elements of the Secret Service. So, at any rate, this is definitely a good reason to have a congressional hearing and really get people under oath and find out what really happened. I mean, there is one posting on X which seems to suggest exactly what I'm talking about and gives the name of a potential officer. However, I just tend to think that's got to be a false posting. And could be wrong, but I don't believe that's the way it would come out in public if that was what happened. I mean, it might be reported to the media, it might be reported to an inspector general or up the chain of command, or the somebody, but I don't think the person would just post something on the internet. So so I tend to think that's probably bogus. And I understand there's a lot of misinformation going around, so that could be part of it. We'll have to wait and see on that as always. But the good news is that former President Trump survived. He looks like to be in good spirits, and from a political point of view, I think it definitely helps him. I think with the election, you get a bit of a sympathy factor when things like this happen, and it seems to have kind of shamed the Democrats, at least temporarily. The other impact it has, which I think also should mention, it may very well help Biden because although Biden has said a bunch of nasty things, but of course both candidates have kind of done that. And I'm not sure people like Crooks are really responding to actual intellectual arguments and reacting on them, or whether they're simply acting, out of who knows what kind of fantasy they have. But the thing is, the discussion of, one Democrat after another coming forward saying that I really think that we ought to, have Biden drop out of the race, that's sort of ceased. We don't see that much anymore, I mean, it may start up again. It's certainly a possibility. It probably will after a time because, once the Republican convention's over and so forth. I made the comment on X the other day that this civility will sort of like a ceasefire in the Middle East. It'll last for a while, but it always breaks down, doesn't it? So I don't know how long this will last. It may last through the week or two, though, and I think this may reduce the pressure on Biden. And the longer Biden can survive, the better chance he'll probably have of getting the nomination, which would be interesting to look forward to the next debate in September if that actually happens. Because, I mean, he definitely wants to stay in. I think his family even wants to stay in, probably even more, really. Certainly Hunter wants him to stay in because he's looking forward to a pardon after the election, I assume. And even if Biden were to be removed from the ticket, it would definitely not look good if he's also end up being removed from office and issues a pardon on the brink of that. Of course, there's always a 25th Amendment thing, but I don't know that the Democrats want to get to that level of infighting. So this may actually not only help Trump, but in a way also help Biden, at least from the point of view of keeping the nomination rather than losing it. So anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts on that subject, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens as the additional facts come forward, and this campaign and this investigation and so forth. Because there are some conspiracy theories that could be spun around this, but I tend to think they're not correct, simply because the background of this particular individual, I just don't see him as the kind of person that some sort of an operative, if you really want to go, into that kind of, something like the JFK conspiracy theories and stuff like that. This guy that doesn't fit the pattern. I mean, he's still living at home. I mean, it just doesn't seem to be the kind of person who would be manipulated by that. Although the fact he was making IEDs and all that, it seems like the weapon he used was actually his father's rifle, had been bought years before, and he's basically just being loaned it to go to the range to practice. At least that's what his father apparently thought before he found out what had happened. And well, he has a dead son on his hand, and he's got the FBI on his case. Which this must be horrible for the family. I mean, it's just insane. To have something like that happen. But anyhow, that's kind of that. I did want to make another comment based on my previous video that I'd mentioned the fact that I made post a link on that video to an article. It appears that while Poland and Ukraine were talking about the idea of using Polish air defenses to fire on Russian missiles that were coming close to the Polish border but not crossing it, that apparently the Stoltenberg of NATO apparently is trying to nix that idea, that they don't really want that level of intervention because it's sort of it's maybe a little too escalatory. So we'll see whether or not they heed his idea or not. After all, his idea may actually be coming from the U.S. I'm kind of thinking also. So that's one thing I want to mention here while I'm, addressing these issues. And of course, we'll be waiting for to see, how the convention goes and what Trump's speech is like. This is it's understanding he's going to be mellowing it down a little bit from what he would be doing. But anyhow, that's about that. I'll be wrapping this up for this time, and of course I'll be posting this again as always on YouTube and Rumble, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below, and so that'll be it for this time.